Oftentimes on Mondays, I like to talk about overreactions versus reality. There's a lot of overreactions. There seems to be a lot of hot takes and overreactions from this weekend. We've got football players melting down. We've got just full-on craziness at every single level in every way. So let's do this. We will separate the overreactions from the reality, or at least what I think is the reality, and you can disagree all that you would like. All right, so let's start. Overreaction. Your Dallas Cowboys will cruise to an NFC championship and the number 2 seed. Reality. Easy to get over your skis right now. Very easy. I'm not, because I've been saying this stuff since last August. But here we go. It is there for the taking, no doubt. They are now number 1 in the East, and they hold the tiebreaker over Philadelphia. Got it? You've probably, if you've wanted to read it, you've already read that. They're the hottest team in football with the hottest quarterback in the game who's, get this, who leads the league in touchdowns, who is now the favorite to win the MVP. Say that back in August and people would say that you're on crack. But here's where I think the reality is. The reality is the path is even harder, I think, than it was even a week ago. It looked like a tough path to run the table the rest of the way. That's what we're talking about now. To get that number 2 seed to win the division, most likely, you're going to have to run the table. It looked kind of tough a week ago. I think it looks much tougher even now. You're going to say, wait a second, Jeff, Dallas is playing better than ever. They're as hot as they can be. I get it. Listen, the reality is the teams left for Dallas, because of their own screw-ups, are now fighting for their playoff lives. So instead of Dallas getting teams when they're not necessarily at their best because they don't have to be at their best, they're now desperate football teams. First question, of course, is this really Philadelphia? Is this who Philadelphia is? The team that got their face kicked in again by Dallas, that has had their face kicked in on consecutive weeks by the upper echelon of the NFC. Is this who they are? And that's the way it looks right now. Is it's a tired, sluggish, slow-starting team that is prone to a lot of mistakes. Is this who they really are? So, and I'd caution people about that, because it's really easy right now to get over your skis and say, this is an easy path for Dallas. It's not so easy, because everybody now in the mix is really, really desperate as well. Will Philadelphia blow a game down the stretch? If this is not who Philadelphia is, if this is not a sluggish, tired, mistake-prone, slow-starting team that you saw get their ass handed to them by Dallas, then I think they've got life. I know it doesn't look that way right now. I know it's hard to accept that, but there's an answer why they probably have life. Dallas needs to hope this is who Philadelphia is. Dallas needs to hope that by kicking their face in, that they really are this tired and this sluggish and mistake-prone. Because they need Philadelphia, I think, to make a mistake along the way. And that may only happen, to be honest, when they play Seattle next week. Because they have Seattle and the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Giants. Well, that's 3 of the 4 that don't really even play football anymore. So if they have a pulse, and I think they might, if they have a pulse, at worst you can see 3-1 down the stretch. Now, that's the reality for Dallas, is that what's ahead is not only on paper good teams, but teams that are desperate to win. I didn't see it a week ago. You see it more now. I saw Buffalo going to Kansas City, which is a whole other discussion by itself, and the tantrums. But I saw Buffalo going to Kansas City losing, and Buffalo mailing it in and turning into a dysfunctional mess. All the better for the Dallas Cowboys. Not now. No. Dallas goes to Buffalo. I have no idea how much snow there could be. Dallas now goes to Buffalo, and Buffalo's alive and desperate and feels it. So Dallas gets Buffalo on the road, and Buffalo very much has life in the playoffs. A win in beautiful Buffalo in a week, the betting money is moving all the way to Dallas. It's shifting its way there now. people are hyped about it, but a win in Buffalo, and that money just flows towards Dallas. It's an up and down, weird, bizarre team in Buffalo, but they get a team, right? So there's that game, which is now more dangerous than you thought it was even a week or 10 days ago. Then you get a team that's playing for a top 2 seed, and that's Miami. And it matters. It matters a lot. That's a team chasing a top 2. Then you get Detroit, who you would think, I actually thought Detroit was in a good place and Detroit could cruise. And by the time Dallas gets Detroit is resting. Detroit is, we got this, we'll take a nap now. Instead, they turn around and get their face kicked in by the Bears. So they're now a desperate team. Yeah, they're a playoff team, but they're playing for their home field lives. And then they end with Washington, who doesn't care, and all their coaches are going to get fired. A 3-1 finish would not be bad for Dallas. Is it good enough? Can you count on the Eagles to do the same? Or can you count on the Eagles to run the table? Next week tells you everything. It really does. It tells you everything. We thought Dallas v. Philadelphia would tell us everything. That's not entirely true now. So, Dallas is better. Yep, Dallas is, what you're seeing is really what Dallas is. There are so many right things with the Cowboys. Not to mention they find a field goal kicker who's now 28 of 28. It's ridiculous. You couldn't be in a better spot in how you're playing than Dallas is right now, but they have hit a stretch of playing desperate teams. Is 3-1 good enough? Overreaction. Your Houston Texans are going to win their division. Gosh, I think I've said that a week ago, and I think I might have said it the week before that. They're not, overreaction, they're not the same old irrelevant Houston Texans. They're chasing a division championship, so there's no way they don't win and cover against the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets. It's easy money, right, everybody? Who didn't say that on Friday and Saturday? Yeah, well, reality. What the hell was that? What was that? Are you kidding? What was that? Like, that's the Texans? That's the Texans we've known for decades? Really? That's the old Texans. We thought we had a new Texans. They get blasted. The playoff-bound, division-winning, it's like kumbaya for the Texans. For the first time ever, we're talking about the Texans. For the first time ever, they matter. For the first time ever, we just assume, well, here's a throwaway game. You're going to cover this. You had a great spot. Man, life is good. You've turned the corner. They turn around and get blasted, and I mean blasted, by the clueless, dysfunctional New York Jets. That's almost impossible to do. Nobody, in particular, I really mean nobody, but nobody that's any good lets Zach Wilson look like Joe Montana. That doesn't happen. You can't let that happen. That's impossible. That dude couldn't look like Joe Montana in a practice. Reality. The Texans did. The Texans, somehow, it even surprised the Jets. I'm sure somewhere there's audio of the coaching staff saying, who is that guy? What's he doing? Where did he? Is Aaron Rodgers out there? Texans. How did you end up there? Really? Just when we wanted to talk about you. Now you're going to get kicked back to the curb. You know, if you want to be taken seriously and you want to be relevant, you know what you can't do? You can't lose to Zach Wilson and the Jets 30-6. If you'd like to matter, you can't do that. Nobody does that. If you want to matter, do you know what else you can't do? If you want to matter, if you want to be relevant, if you want to be talked about a lot, you can't let Zach Wilson, you know, the guy that keeps losing his job and getting it back only because everybody else is a mess too. You can't let that guy pass for 301 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nobody lets that happen. Zach Wilson doesn't pass for 300 yards in 5 games. He did it against the Texans in 1. In a game that kind of needed. But there he was against the streaking playoff-bound Texans lighting them up. The Texans on their way to a division championship, and they're derailed. Imagine looking back on the season and saying, man, you blew it against Zach Wilson. You know what you can't do? If you would like to make us think you're different. That's what you can't do. So you kind of burned us a little bit here. It's not cool. What you can't do, if you want us to think differently about you, your rookie of the year, your runaway, unanimous, no one else will even be on the ballot, rookie of the year quarterback, C.J. Stroud, the guy that we can't say enough about, the guy that just on Friday, I'm talking about being in a battle for the next several years with Trevor Lawrence as being the two of the best quarterbacks in all of football. It's the next Mahomes Burrow kind of thing. You know, some of us said that stuff. What you can't do is have that superstar pass for 91 yards against the Jets. They're directionless. They're clueless. They're a full-arm sports dumpster fire, and this star player had 91 yards. You know what you can't do? If your coach is the front runner for coach of the year and is the defensive genius of the year, you can't let Zach Wilson and the Jets score 31 points. They don't score 31 points in a month. The Jets are usually a mess on offense. It normally takes them 3 or 4 weeks to score 31 points, defensive genius. Overreaction. This one's a little complicated. I'm going to have to go back to the days of having a toddler to talk about this. You ready? Overreaction. Patrick Mahomes' toddler-like tantrum is over the top. I'll describe those tantrums in case many of you forget. You know the tantrums where your 4-year-old is in the store and they're to the point where they're dry heaving that it looks unhealthy. They're melting down so badly. They're crying so badly because they want the newest Thomas the Tank Engine. And so they scream at the top of their lungs. They go face first in the store and start kicking and screaming to the point that you feel embarrassed at other people looking at you like they're going to call CPS. That kind of tantrum. You know, the one with the toddler, the 4-year-old is on the floor wailing uncontrollably. And you feel like a terrible parent because you're ignoring. You just figure, I'm going to ignore this one. You're ignoring the kid's tantrum. Not that I've been through a few hundred of those to tell you about them specifically, but Patrick Mahomes has had that meltdown after Kansas City scored 17 points at home, and it's been absurd. He's having that 4-year-old meltdown. I remember them very, very well. It was always the Thomas the Tank Engine that did it. Like that started the absolute freak out. That's what he's doing. Reality. And there's bits and pieces to the reality of this. This is a bad look for him. For the first time that anybody can remember, he's been the face of the NFL. He's the face of the franchise. He's the face of the league for a long time coming. What used to be the face of the league, Tom Brady, it's been Patrick Mahomes for a couple of years, if not longer. It's a bad look for him. Him screaming about the offsides call on his offense is a bad look. But I think there's more to it. So here's where I think the reality is. There's a little psychological study in this. He's a guy that doesn't throw anybody on the bus that I know of. Typically, he does not throw anybody under the bus. Well, none of his teammates under the bus. He's not critical ever. He owns everything. You couldn't ask for a better face of the franchise of the NFL than Patrick Mahomes. Okay? I think this meltdown, this 4-year-old I want that Thomas the Tank Engine meltdown, I'm going to cry and never stop crying kind of meltdown. I think this meltdown, half of it is a bad look. Well, all of it's a bad look. Half of it is about the call. But I think the other half is about what's happened the past few weeks. And I think it's about what happened during that game. I think reality is hitting him really hard. And that is, I'm at a high level. The people around me are not. Reality is starting to hit him, and it's driving him crazy, and it should. It should. So I guess what I'm saying is they've lost 2 in a row now. and it's on the offensive side. They're just not very good on offense. One part of his meltdown makes perfect sense. And that is, he keeps hitting guys in the hands with passes, and they keep dropping the ball. He keeps driving a team down the field, and they keep making mistakes. That, I think, is really getting to him. He continues to play at a high level, and his offense isn't helping. What's around him is just not working. His defense is excellent, and now they're on the outside looking at a division championship. It's just uncharted territory for him. He's not used to it. So I know it's a baby-fied tantrum. It is that wailing tantrum. It is getting a little old, but I think there's more to it. I think he's flipping out partly about his team. And to be honest, the play that has got him flipping out, he should be mad. He should. So the defense that he has is Super Bowl caliber. He's still at Super Bowl caliber. What's going on around him is far from it. It's not an accident. It's not a fluke. They're just not that good. A franchise, think of it this way, a franchise, the Chiefs, that looked like had all the makings, and some would argue still does. But that's why I think this blow-up is deeper than just the stupid call. And it was the correct call, by the way. Got it? I'll tell you why. But there's something far deeper to this guy right now flipping out. I mean, he's on day 2 of flipping out. He went nuts yesterday after the game, the Chiefs and the Bills, and he's still complaining. I just think there's more to it. He's pissed, for good reason, some of it, because they pulled off a perfectly mastered trick play for a 49-yard touchdown. Okay, this would have given the Chiefs a 24-20 lead with maybe a minute left in the game against the Bills. It was brilliant, and his receiver, Kadarius Toney, lined up offsides. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Just to nerd out on some football for you just for a second, that's dumb at every level of football. It's dumb. It's unheard of in the NFL. It's unheard of in college. You get yelled at in high school. I did it. It's extra, extra dumb in the NFL, and it's really off the charts dumb at that point in the game. It was his fault. It was his own offense's fault. It was a gut punch for Kansas City. I think a gut punch for Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's part of why he's flipping out. I have to believe his meltdown, his childlike tantrum meltdown, was partly due to the fact that that was an unbelievably dumb thing to do. Instead of being so mad at the referee and mad at the world, he should have jumped on his guy's face. He'd just get in his face, but it's too late. Damage is done. The penalty was called, and it was absolutely the right call. He was a good foot ahead of the ball, and all he has to do, just so everyone, I think everyone's hearing conversations about this play and how officials are inserting themselves into games. That's BS. It is. It's BS. This is not some subjective call of pass interference that it just was outrageous. This is a clear line that the dude crossed that was completely lazy. Okay? Your job when you line up is to line up on the ball, the tip of the ball. That's what you have to do. You put your toe level with the ball. You know how you know you're doing it? Because the referee puts his toe out as well to show you where to line up. I mean, the line judge to his left, okay, this is true of any receiver at any level of football. He'll stick his foot out to show you where to line up before the snap. It's second nature to guys who do it for a living. Second nature. But if you break the huddle, you're winded, blah, 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 whatever's going on, you'll always see guys look to the left, they'll point, and then they're pointing to make sure they are lined up correctly with their toe on the ball. That's it. All you got to do is line up correctly before the snap. And the official is there to show you where to do it. I mean, if you just take the time, you'll see it 40 times a game. Patrick Mahomes should be furious because it's another mistake by his receivers. It's a silly mistake. It's off the charts. And I'm covering him a little bit by saying I think there's more to this rant. But the rant about the penalty is absolutely unjustified. The rant about his teammates is completely justified. It's not okay for the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Taylor Swift, anybody to be whining about the call. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are not historically whiners. They're far from it. They're two guys that have done it the right way, that show up to work every day, that know the game well. This whining is in the wrong direction. The whining about the call, I guess, is an easy way to avoid throwing your teammate under the bus who did something incredibly stupid. They're wrong, by the way. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are wrong. So here it goes. In order, I have to save all the F-bombs because Patrick Mahomes wouldn't stop dropping F-bombs. In order, it's the play, which was executed perfectly. Unfortunately, no one's going to talk about Travis Kelce Swift's pass across the field, which was nothing short of amazing. So in order, it's the play, then Andy Reid sort of complaining, then Patrick Mahomes absolutely complaining, and then a perfect explanation by an official.
And another blitz, selling out, flag on the play, might be a free one. They've got Kelce at the 30, Kelce 25, angling back, 20, now he's going to lateral it back at the 15-yard line. It's Tony, 10, 5, touchdown, quarterback.
Offside, number 19, offense, lined up in the neutral zone, 5-yard penalty.
Offsides by the offense, lined up in the neutral zone.
One of the most exciting plays. A TD is wiped off the board and a 5-yard penalty.
Of a football game down to the end. Very disappointed that it ended the way it did. And normally I'll get, I never use any of this as excuses, but normally I get a warning before something like that happens in a big game. A bit embarrassing in the National Football League for that to take place.
It's obviously tough to swallow. Not only for me, but just for football in general. Just to take away greatness like that. For a guy like Travis to make a play like that, and who knows if we win. But as I know, as fans, you want to see the guys on the field decide the game, and that's why last week I didn't say anything about the flag that didn't get called on the Marquez. And so, they're human, man. They make mistakes, but it's every week we're talking about something, and all I can do is go out there and give everything I have, and I'm proud of the guys because that's what we did, and it was a great football game that ended, another great football game that just ended like that. It's just tough to swallow.
Well, yeah, okay. So what they're really saying is, this whole deal about Andy Reid saying they normally warn me. That's one of the things people don't have to warn you about because the dude is standing over there. I know this. I've been on the sideline 7,000 times. There's somebody with their toe out. So you point your finger. Am I lined up okay? And you know what? If you're not lined up okay, you know what that line judge will do? Is tell you to back up. Come on, guys. No. I'm cutting them some slack by saying I think this might be. There might be more to this. I think the reality, the weight of where that franchise is, because as good as they are, they fixed a lot of stuff. Their defense, all this stuff's going right as a dynasty. And I think the reality is they've got to be super frustrated that the only thing holding them back are they just started losing receivers. It's showing up, and he hates it because he's still playing at a high level.